What some are saying for the worse. Welcome, everyone, to Western Mass News at 6. I'm Chris Pisano.
And I'm Abby Carnevale. Western Mass News reporter Wesley Days joins us live in studio with reaction from housing experts and activists on the Healey administration's move to create stay limits in shelters statewide. Wesley, Healey Camp says it's over concerns about capacity.
Absolutely. The focus is on that and financial sustainability, Abby and Chris. Tonight, on the eve of this change, people say Governor Healey, do not do it.
Renounce this policy, take it back.
As we flip the calendar to a new month, August is coming with a flip of the script for families who need a lifeline across the Bay State.
And this new policy gives you a choice. You can enter into a shelter at a respite center for 5 days. If you do so, then you are housed for 5 days, and then you are no longer eligible for emergency shelter for 6 months or more.
The emergency assistance system, which has helped house migrants and residents with dire housing needs, has been a hot topic for months. The program, pummeled with capacity and cash constraints, now has community concerns over how families are brought into the controversial system.
What we're starting to hear already with a cap on family shelter beds is for the first time in decades, we're starting to see families that are unsheltered.
Now, if your family needs help, it may be a double-edged sword. Choose temporary help. Your permanent help will have to wait. Pamela Schwartz with the Western Mass Network to End Homelessness shares more insight with Western Mass News.
First blush, you might think, well, who in their right mind would choose 5 nights of shelter in the face of being prohibited from even entering EA shelter for 6 months, except when you are a parent with children sleeping outside, you might well choose 5 nights of shelter.
The new rule allows for families who faced a no-fault eviction, face sudden circumstances like natural disasters, or have at least one veteran or a member with severe medical risk will have first crack at this program. Geraldine McCafferty with Springfield's Office of Housing points to more problems with the prioritizations. People with fault evictions get the short end of the stick. But what does that mean?
Eviction. What does that mean? If you're evicted for non-payment of rent, you're not a priority. And those are the families that I'm most worried about. So I hear of reports of families living in cars, families living in parks, families with children.
So with the critiques comes the main questions. What do we hope to do to mitigate this problem? And what does this new prioritization mean for the future? Rose Webster Smith with nonprofit Springfield No One Leaves forecast it for us.
I see encampments popping up left and right. It's sit down with the service providers, the advocates, get everybody at the table, and let's figure out some actual humane solutions to the crisis that we have.
Well, Rose adds that those encampments may go up, but cities and towns have the legal authority to tell them to come down. She also suggests something similar to what we heard McCafferty talk about just a few moments ago, that we look at how we handle evictions in our area. Chris, Abby.
Now, Wesley, what is the Healey administration's response tonight?
Yeah, we're hearing from them tonight. A spokesperson for her team sent a statement to us that reads in part, quote, "Now the key reason for transitioning safety net sites to temporary respite centers and limiting days and stays to 5 days is to free up space and provide short-term respite to newly arriving families in need. There are approximately 8,000 families in shelter in Massachusetts at present, including both longtime Massachusetts residents and newly arriving immigrant families, and unfortunately, we do not have additional capacity at this time." Reporting live in studio, Wesley Days, Western Mass News.
Wesley.